It now gives me great pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, the Honorable G. Wayne Panton, JP, MP, Premier. The Premier of the Cayman Islands is also a member of the Sustainability, Climate and Resilience, Minister of Finance, Economic Development, and Minister for the Cabinet Office. From 2013 to 2017, he served as Minister of Financial Services, Commerce and Environment, during which he was credited with expanding and modernizing the financial services industry, renegotiating the terms of the special economic zones to allow additional tech zones, expanding the eligibility for Sunday trading, and spearheading the anonymous passage of our country's first National Conservation Act. Before entering politics, Mr. Panton practiced as an attorney at law and retired as chairman of the Walkers Group. Which is a leading international law firm headquartered in the Cayman Islands. His professional and civic activities include being the former president of the Caymanian Bar Association, chairman of the Port Authority of the Cayman Islands, vice chairman of the National Trust of the Cayman Islands, and a member of the government's Shipping Sector Conservation Committee. Mr. Panton is a future-focused leader who seeks to balance the and compete interests of the present while preserving the same opportunities for the future. He's established the first ever Ministry of Sustainability, and the head of government is leading the change of embedding systems to protect the health, well-being, prosperity, livelihood of the Cayman Islands. In his downtime, he logs many miles in open ocean boating, traveling, and is certified scuba diver. Oh, you'll have to help me come sing for rum. And a private pilot. Please help me welcome our Honorable Premier, Wayne Panton.
Nelson, thank you very much for those kind words. I am going to first say thank you to both members of the Chamber who set protocol earlier, so I won't try to repeat that. But I'm also going to take a leaf out of Shamari's book. I don't have the teacher pedigree involved, but I want you to do me a favor. I don't get cooperation in the office. I want to say a big, incredibly wonderful and warm good afternoon to all of you. But I want you to say, please, good afternoon, Wayne. Is that okay? So, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Wayne.
Thank you so much. You just made my day. Shamari, actually, let me just say, I want to thank all of the sponsors and the presenters here this afternoon. I think they have done a phenomenal job this afternoon, and also I think they provide incredibly wonderful service to this country, make amazing contributions to this country, and better the lives of people in this country. So thank you all very much. Last year, I was supposed to be at this event speaking, and I think a day or two before I came down with COVID. So that was it. Couldn't make it. I had to ask my colleague, Minister Ebanks, Andre Ebanks, to stand in for me at the last minute. He wasn't taking any chances this time. On Sunday afternoon, he was seen at the airport with a very large bag, heading for the plane for an extended trip. No, he's actually off. He is on an extended trip, part of which is to attend a FATF plenary meeting, but more on that in a bit. So, ladies and gentlemen, all around us, our country is changing. And up until now, we haven't fully contemplated and considered the drivers of the change and how we address those. Some of those drivers for us are population growth through immigration, economic growth, climate change, electoral system changes, emerging technologies, and the erosion of, at least from a Caymanian perspective, identity, Caymanian identity, heritage, and culture. Now, I think anybody who knows me knows that I'm very passionate about creating a better country for this generation and future generations of Caymanians and those who have adopted Cayman as their home. Strong leaders, ladies and gentlemen, stand on conviction, stand up for principles. My principles are rooted in preparing our country to deal with the reality of a changing world and effects of a rapidly changing Cayman. For too many in our community, this discussion may be limited to being political, but to me, I think leadership really is required at this time to be about principles. So, for example, ladies and gentlemen, I and my colleagues believe in an open and transparent government. When we came into government, we decided to publish weekly cabinet summaries. Why? To regularly update the country on the decisions being taken by the executive branch of government. We instituted a cabinet manual, then a ministerial code of conduct, and last year all members of government and all elected members of government, as well as the official members of Parliament, signed a parliamentary code of conduct. That, ladies and gentlemen, code of conduct keeps our government honest, but it's also about setting standards and expectations for our behavior and for what you can expect. It's also about protecting the workplace for men and women. And that is why at times you have to make tough calls. Over the course of the last 2 years, we've had to make hard choices to keep our economy on track, to keep people provided with relief during the COVID-19 crisis, and now during the global inflationary crisis. Remember, it was just 2 years ago that our country was shut down with no reopening plan. It was this government that safely reopened our borders and our economy and restored tourism and got our economy moving again with a very high vaccination rate and a minimal loss of life. In terms of restoring tourism, you've heard the Chamber President comment in relation to my colleague Minister of Tourism, the great work that he has done, the Department of Tourism has done in restoring tourism, and it is really moving now. But getting there hasn't been easy. We've had to make tough choices, tough decisions to put more money in people's pockets during this global inflation and cost of living crisis that we're all experiencing. And I say all, meaning not just all of us in Cayman, but the world. I'm sure many of you have been following the news out of the United Kingdom, and in particular, the news around the actions they had to take last winter, where it was reported that over 3 million people could not afford to heat their homes. So this is a global crisis. And while we cannot solve it alone, we here in Cayman have to do our level best to make it a little bit easier for our people. We've addressed the cost of living crisis by introducing a number of initiatives to help Caymanian families. We provided free school meals for school children. We helped with electricity assistance to keep rates down for 22,000 eligible households. We removed import duty on healthy foods, baby foods and products, feminine hygiene products, energy-efficient products. We extended the worker stipend. We reduced fees across the board for seniors. We extended the pension holiday for an additional year. We helped with tuition assistance for our students. That is not an exhaustive list, but it is a significant list of contributions that the government and actions that the government has taken to try to help in these tough times that people have been experiencing. And yes, we have taken criticism for some of these, but we thought they were sensible measures and we thought they were required to help see our families through some of these challenging times. Those to our political right worry, I think, that we're going too far and that there is irresponsible social spending, and that this will only further the sense of entitlement that they mention at times. Ladies and gentlemen, these are uncharted times. We have to take certain actions. We've come out of a pandemic environment, and now we are facing the consequences of geopolitical disruptions around the world, as well as the lingering impacts of supply chain issues. Those on our political left say we aren't going far enough with our social spending, and that we should provide more assistance to more people for a longer period of time. There's one thing which is certain. That is, we are mandated by law to have a surplus, and I think we're mandated by the people of this country to maintain fiscal stability. I think what is needed more than ever at a time like this is balanced leadership, which stands neither too far to the left nor too far to the right. Like you, many of you as business owners and leaders, and like most Caymanians, I think government should not be prone to extremes. Our leadership needs to be pragmatic, future-oriented, and capable of balancing the competing interests while maintaining fiscal prudence. Ladies and gentlemen, we are a government that seeks to achieve a balance, a government that simultaneously has a heart for Caymanians and a strong social conscience. We're also a government that understands that we must make financially prudent decisions and that we cannot recklessly spend it all today and put our economy and fiscal independence at risk. Today, as I said back in January, thanks to the tireless work over the last 2 years by this government and our private sector partners, I am pleased to say that our economy is strong and getting stronger. Cayman has consistently shown strong and stable positive growth, while the rest of the Caribbean typically reflects degrees of volatility and growth, high unemployment, and sometimes disappointing human development indicators. But for us, international business is thriving. Hotels are full again, thanks to the Minister and the team's efforts, and all the partners that work with us. Shops and restaurants are bustling, Jobs are available up and down the economic ladder. We don't, in Cayman, have a jobs issue. Our challenge for Caymanians is ensuring that they are qualified and trained and have access to the opportunities that already exist. Talking about the financial or fiscal year and using 2019 as the benchmark, operating revenues for Cayman, the Cayman Islands government, have increased steadily from $862 million for 2019 to now $1.21 billion for 2022. For the first 5 months of this year, operating revenues were $589 million, with total 2023 revenues projected at $1.37 billion. So purely on the revenue front, the Cayman Islands government has recovered and surpassed 2019 levels. However, our day-to-day operating expenditures have also increased from $718 million in 2019 to $967 million in 2022. For the 5-month period ended May 31st of this year, operating expenditures amounted to $415 million. Consequently, we are projecting lower operating surpluses as expenses are increasing at a higher pace than revenues. Understandably, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a position which is sustainable in the long term, and we absolutely know that. So we know what the challenges are in terms of being very careful to control our costs, even though we have significantly increasing revenues. In 2019, the surplus was $144 million. The pandemic years of 2020 and 2021 saw deficits of $58 million and $18 million, respectively. But for 2022, we achieved a surplus of $54 million. Now, you may recall it was published previously at $47 million. That was prior to having the unaudited financials completed. So the official surplus level for 2022 is $54 million. But this is remarkable, of course, because it was achieved even as we continued to waive millions of dollars in revenue in an effort to help Caymanians purchase their first home and continue to incentivize investment in the sister islands, and supported dozens of businesses and nonprofits, including schools, with waivers of stamp duty and import duty. In 2022, as an example, ladies and gentlemen, there were 228 waivers of stamp duty for eligible first-time Caymanian home buyers in an aggregate amount of $4.5 million. So we waived $4.5 million for eligible first-time Caymanian homeowners to allow them to get on the home ownership ladder. I think everyone understands the challenge that we face with housing. It's not just, again, one of those issues that's not unique to Cayman. It certainly exists in other places around the world as well. Of course, adding to government's rising expenditures, the civil service has grown from 3,918 in 2018 to 4,401 in 2022. The total head count as of May 31st of this year now stands at 4,511, which represents an increase of 15% in headcount during the last 5 years. Now, these are good, committed civil servants who are taken on to help provide services for the people of this country. I have no quarrel with that. It is just a statement of fact that our costs are increasing. So while our expenditures, while our revenues are increasing as well, they're not increasing at the same rate. So that clearly means that we have to carefully ensure that we spend very wisely. The 2024 to 2025 budget process obviously is gearing up for a budget presentation, which on current timing, we're projecting to be late October. But I think given that background, there's no surprise that there will have to be some hard decisions because we can't continue to grow expenditure at the same rate that we have, given, even though, as I said, our revenues are increasing significantly, because the expenditures are growing faster than revenues. So we will have to make some hard decisions, but we will do that and ensure that we have a balanced approach and that the people of this country receive the services they need and we deliver what we need across the system to be able to make their lives better. The government is also seeking to relieve some of the economic stresses on vulnerable Caymanian families, both this year and into next year and in 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, these are challenges that we will meet, despite our constraints. Now, some of you may have seen me earlier looking at my phone. I wasn't just checking WhatsApp. Yesterday and today, the Federal Reserve Board was having a meeting, deciding whether or not they were going to increase rates again to help control inflation in the US. I'm very pleased to note that they have decided to put a pause on it, and they did not increase the rate today. So I'm sure there are a lot of Caymanians and businesses who are very happy with that fact. I also want to say I was going to ask you to delay your applause until the next statement, but it's okay. That's okay. You can just do it again. I want to say, off the backs of the parliamentary debate last week around the same issue of lending rates, credit rates, I've had meetings, continuous meetings and discussions with the Bankers Association, in particular the 6 retail banks. And as of yesterday, they met with me and agreed to give a minimum of 30 days notice before implementing any further fee or interest rate increases for the next year. Of course, there is 2 sides to it. While they give you 30 days notice of the rate increase, they may well give you 30 days notice before they lower the rate too. But that is, you can't, it's a case of not being able to have your cake and eat it as well. I think, to be fair though, and I've said this previously, the banks are in a competitive environment themselves. And while what I've outlined is what they've committed to as a group, they may, within that group, compete to a greater extent, for which our consumers, our homeowners that have mortgages and our businesses that have credit or loans can benefit from. Interestingly as well, they were outlining the number of clients over the last probably year, well, 6 months, I would say, more likely, that have taken up the option of fixing interest rate loans. So some of them have reported that half of their portfolios are fixed rate loans now for a period of time, and that period is usually between 2 years and 5 years. There's another issue that we're challenged with as well, and it was mentioned earlier, and it was the subject of the discussion yesterday as well. And I have asked the banks, and I can tell you that government will be engaging as well with the local insurance industry on the questions around, or the challenges around the significant insurance premium increases. I think what's even more difficult may be that there is falling capacity to write new policies, to take on new business, because of constrained reinsurance cover. I think if we look across the world, and particularly the US, there have been significant increases in claims. I think I saw a statistic which indicated that there was something like 165 days of billion-dollar claims against the insurance industry because of natural disasters, whether they were fires or whether it was hurricanes. That is a very significant challenge. So that's something that we have to engage with as well. So going back to the budget, the unaudited financial results to this point show us having a $174 million surplus. Of course, most people will know by now that most of the government's revenue is tilted towards the first part of the year. So having a $174 million budget right now is not a clear indication of where you end up. But our year-to-date, just in terms of information around our revenues, our year-to-date coercive revenues of $557 million represents 95% of total revenues earned. That is the coercive. Those are $8 million more right now than what had been projected originally. That was $7 million more than the 2022 year-to-date actual. So you can see we are ahead of what was projected, and we were ahead of what the actual was for last year. So that just reflects what I've said in terms of government being ahead of the curve in terms of revenue. The coercive revenue categories performing ahead of year-to-date budgets include a $10 million positive variance in tourism-related revenues, no surprise, take a bow, and a $6 million positive variance in work permit fees. Interestingly, there are approximately 15 sources that consistently generate between 75% and 80% of the government's total annual revenue. The financial services industry also contributes between 40 and 44% of government's annual direct revenue. So when we consider the direct revenue to the government, the thousands of good, stable jobs, and its contribution to the wider economy, we can conclude that the continued success of the financial services industry is critical to our prosperity. And thank you again for continuing with your program of videos at the Chamber. And I'm really happy to hear that it's also been expanded to the tourism side as well, because that's very important. It's always better to give a better understanding across the board of the contributions our significant industries make to our economy. Now, what do all these facts and figures mean to the average Caymanian and to the business community? It means that while we have our challenges to keep an eye on, our economy is strong, as I've said, and getting stronger. It means that the Cayman Islands are weathering the global economic storm. It means that we're creating jobs for our people and profits for businesses. It means that investors remain bullish on our country and our economy. We are growing, we are thriving, even in these difficult circumstances. The most ringing endorsement that the Cayman Islands government's fiscal performance and its fiscal position have improved since the 2020 and 2021 COVID period was made last week, or late last week, by Moody's, where they announced that its rating of the Cayman Islands government remained at a lofty AA3, and its outlook, importantly, was maintained as stable, and this was even against the background of having an entirely new team of analysts who approached the assessment of the Cayman Islands with entirely fresh eyes. Moody's referenced our stable political environment, strong policy continuity, high government effectiveness, sound financial management, and economic growth following the COVID-19 pandemic as supporting that AA3 rating. So this reaffirmation of our credit rating, as well as the ongoing stable economic outlook, is testament not only to the ongoing prudence of government's fiscal policy and the strength of our economy, but also the resilience of our people and the resilience of the business sector, which many of you represent, as we continue to rebound from the economic effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. With this latest evaluation from Moody's reflecting confidence in our country's economic, fiscal, and institutional strength, it also underscores our responsibility to ensure that these accomplishments are maintained for the benefit of this and future generations. We must be committed to keeping our debt burden low and affordable, diversifying and growing our economy, protecting our financial services sector, continuing to invest in and support our tourism sector, mitigating the potential risks posed by climate change and other weather-related disasters as well. We must achieve all of this while ensuring we provide the useful and suitable services and infrastructure improvements that are essential to deliver a high quality of life for our people. Our cost of living continues to be top of mind. The good news, somewhat, is that our consumer price index is indicating a reduction in inflation in the Cayman Islands. Last year, we were reflecting 9.5% inflation. Our latest CPI numbers indicate that year on year, that has declined to 6.6%. So while we're still having inflation, it is flattening out. It is reducing in terms of its growth. So this is really good news, and this reflects similarly a downward trend in the U.S. Consumer Price Index. Obviously important, as the U.S. is one of our largest trading partners. I think their rate indicated, as of yesterday, was somewhere around just below 5%. So I think that's a reflection of why the Fed has decided to pause their previously consecutive rate increases. I think there was about 10 in the last 14 months. So I'm really pleased that we are continuing the engagement with the local banks. I'm pleased with their commitment to give the 30-day notice. And I think this will enable us to continue now to have engagement, to work on a number of the issues that are challenging not just our homeowners, but those who operate our successful businesses in this country as well. So in terms of jobs and employment in Cayman, all around the world, let me say, all around the world, their jobs are seen as a sign of economic growth. Having a strong job market means that our people do have opportunities to thrive and earn a living. I am certainly pleased to note again that our unemployment rate is at the lowest that it has been recorded in decades. Overall unemployment being at 2.1% at the end of 2022. I think very shortly we will have the results of the most recent labour force survey, and I'm hoping that that will reflect a similar trend. I have no reason to think that it won't, but I think this continues to be positive for the country. Now, as a government, we're seeking to balance economic growth with opportunities for Caymanians by supporting policies that require you as the business community to assist us and making jobs available to Caymanians first, giving them those opportunities. But of course, if there are no Caymanians, despite your best efforts, and we understand that given that we have in excess of 50% of the workforce being non-Caymanian at this point, it may be possible that there are dislocations and you won't be able to find a Caymanian to fill the role that you need critically for your business to operate and succeed. We need to be able to ensure that you can have that position filled by a qualified applicant after following the proper process. Now, I continue to receive complaints and calls of frustration in relation to the processing of work permits and residency applications. But I want to say this. At this time, all applications, work permit, permanent residency, and the right to be Caymanian are all being processed, and projects are underway to help eliminate any excessive backlogs. The government met very recently with the special committee that had been set up to review the permanent residency point system, and we're expecting to get their recommendations back by September. Just to provide you with some additional information, in the month of May, the Department of Work, WORC, received 2,931 work permit applications. The most common type of work permit application was a temporary work permit. There was 1,952 of those, followed by a normal full work permit grant. There was 1,003 for May. Now, there was also a significant number of work permit renewals, 702. During the same period, the department, both the administrators as well as the boards working together, considered a total of 6,395 work permit applications, demonstrating that the projects and the initiatives put in place to address backlogs is working. They are bringing about positive results. So at this point, the total number of work permit applications that are pending is just over 5,000. But as you can see, if they are receiving just under 3,000 work permits for May as new ones, including renewals, and they have processed 6,395, we should be able to deal with these outstanding applications that are pending, just over 5,000, in very short order. So I expect that problem to start to go away within the coming couple of months, 2 to 3 months. On the residency applications, and specifically addressing the 8-year PR permanent residency applications, approximately half of the 334 outstanding applications have been considered to date. We have a team of administrators processing approximately 45 of those a month, and during the month of May, 34 new applications were received. So again, that's a reflection that they are gaining ground on any outstanding applications. 361 permanent residency applications of various types, including variations, were considered during May. Again, at this time, all applications, work permit, be they work permit, permanent residency, or the right to be Caymanian, are all being processed, and we are able to demonstrate that we're making significant progress in addressing those in the backlog. Now, there are some people who think we are not doing this fast enough. Others in our country feel that we need to slow things down and introduce moratoriums. As I said before, now more than ever as a government, we do need to be pragmatic, we need to be future-focused and capable of balancing the competing interests. We have had, as everyone here knows, we have had a very significant population growth over the last 2 years. And in particular, the last year. 8,000 people moved to the Cayman Islands between October 2021 and October 2022. 8,000. That is a challenge for any country and any government to manage. It's a challenge for any society to accommodate and to be able to be comfortable with, to put it frankly. Now, those figures compare to 16,000 in population growth over the past 10 years. So this is straining systems. We certainly have not been prepared to handle a surge of that type. I think everyone is clear and understands the impacts and the issues that it has been generating across the board. So, with the country in a strong and stable position, over the next 2 years, we intend to address these issues and also deliver even greater, tangible, and measurable results that matter to the people of this country. You will also have known that we delivered the strategic policy statement on April 26th of this year. The government's approach in relation to the strategic policy statement, which was delivered, is a little different than how it has been dealt with in the past. Under the Public Management and Finance Act, what is contemplated is that the initial stage before getting into dealing with establishing the budget and bringing the budget to Parliament is the policy stage. It's the policy development stage. So we took a very genuine and specific effort, implemented that to ensure that we were reflecting a heavy policy approach on this occasion, to set out to the people of the country what we're trying to achieve and why we are doing that, and then putting the costing on the back end, which, as I said, reflects what is contemplated in the Public Management and Finance Act. So we wanted to send clear signals about what our priorities were and why. As I said, that was presented in Parliament on the 26th, and we clearly have set out that this is designed to responsibly improve the quality of life of our people, the quality of life for this generation, as well as future generations. The strategic policy statement focused on 5 pillars. The first one was improving the quality of life for Caymanians. The second was enhancing competitiveness while meeting international standards. The third was future-proofing to increase resiliency. Fourth was modernizing government to improve public sector performance. And the fifth was protecting and promoting Caymanian culture, heritage, and identity. So in developing these broad outcomes, ladies and gentlemen, we have put the most important aspects of our country, our people, at the epicenter of all of that. They are at the heart of every broad outcome, every specific outcome, and every project detailed in the strategic policy statement. If what we're doing doesn't benefit, support, encourage, enrich, educate, and empower our people, there's not any point to doing it. These broad outcomes encompass all aspects of life and living in the Cayman Islands, from enhancing the basic elements of the human condition, including housing, health, and education, to maintaining our main industries' relevance in the global arena, developing as a jurisdiction structured for future growth and sustainability, maintaining a stable, efficient, and transparent government, and championing the vital importance of retaining our Caymanian culture, heritage, and identity. So while our success is clear and our plans bold, to quote former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair, many of you know he visited here, real progress cannot be measured by money alone. We must ensure that economic growth contributes to our quality of life rather than degrading it. As you may have heard me say before, we can measure success with many metrics. I've known rich people that are miserable. I know working people that are incredibly happy. To me, the true measure of success is improving the quality of life for all of our people. The United Nations uses the Human Development Index to measure 3 key dimensions of human development: a long and healthy life, that's the health index; access to knowledge, the education index; and a decent standard of living, the income index. Shamari talked about the long and healthy life aspect earlier. Thank you, Shamari. Thank you to this entire table. I won't name any names, but you all do an incredible job in contributing to the life and quality of life for Cayman. It's saving lives in Cayman. I've had to, with someone who is very near and dear to me, make a call to Shamari at 1 o'clock in the morning. Shamari was there instantly. The team was there. And I am completely confident that that person's life was saved. So for Cayman, we recently did the Human Development Index survey, and we ended up with a value of 0.877. That is considered, ladies and gentlemen, to be a very high human development index. And I think I am proud to say that we have one of, if not the highest in the region. But that's not to say that we don't understand that we have challenges, that we have some people who are well below any acceptable level of human development index. And that's a part of our challenge. But those numbers are not too big that we can't handle them. We can do that working together as a team in government and with our private sector partners. So while we have a strong HDI, we know we have more work to do to ensure that our country is not only prosperous, but is also an enjoyable and peaceful place to live. We know those challenges. We know there are no silver bullets. There are no magic wands. Some of these are very complex problems, but we must try. I want to take the opportunity right now to acknowledge the announcement that was made last night, I think. It was sent out last night, I believe, in relation to the fact that we have our Caymanian who is to replace the incredible Commissioner Burns, who's done such a wonderful job for our country in keeping us safe. But we have our own Caymanian, Mr. Kurt Walton, who is the designate replacement commissioner. And I want to say congratulations to him, and I'm sure all of you join me in wishing him the best. And of course, that extends to thanking again Commissioner Byrne for the incredible work he has done. I'm sure there'll be many, many opportunities to tell him that again. But we look forward, certainly, to having our new commissioner in place. I have no doubt that he will do a stellar job because he's had the benefit of the leadership of an incredible commissioner like Commissioner Byrne. So as we look toward the broader economy, there are a few key challenges we face as we continue to develop and create opportunity across the board for our people. The sustainability and livability of our three islands for this and future generations encompass a number of those challenges. We have a few wicked problems. Some of the most urgent are obviously cost of living and traffic. Our government is committed to tackling these problems head on, and while there are no panaceas for these complex problems, we must do what we can to provide cost of living relief in the short term and to take steps to contain and ideally reduce costs in the medium to long term. Now, anybody who has ever spoken on this issue understands that it is a challenge that we have because over 90%, probably 95% of what we consume is imported. So we end up importing inflation. But we will take whatever steps we can, no matter how small, because they all add up. They all together can help. And of course, there are times when there are those who are cynical about the business community and if we reduce duties in areas, whether they get the benefit passed on. So clearly, we rely on the relationship with our partners in the business community. And you all live here as well. Everybody lives here. So I'm sure you're just as committed as we are to trying to address these issues. So as we look back at where we've been, we can see significant accomplishments over the last 2 years. 2 years ago, we were living in a closed economy with high unemployment and depleted government finances that was barely recovering from the worst global pandemic in a century. Today, our economy is growing again, and we can boast of a budget surplus, the lowest unemployment record in decades, and a thriving business sector. Now, ladies and gentlemen, is the time to move forward with prudence by not giving in to impulses at the extremes, but by innovating, evolving, and steering the good ship Cayman. In taking a more holistic approach and by communicating our desired outcomes more clearly, we hope that everyone in the Cayman Islands will better understand what this government is trying to achieve on their behalf. This includes the civil servants charged with planning, managing, and delivering the government's objectives, the customers who utilize and rely on our services, and most importantly, you as citizens, the ultimate intended beneficiaries of our policies, priorities, and projects. We are focusing on key areas that will make the most positive impact to the lives of Caymanians and ultimately build a stronger and more resilient economy. Ladies and gentlemen, we are called to be responsible with the people's money. We are called to reject imprudence. Indeed, our policies over the first half of this administration have seen an adherence to fiscal prudence, to the principles of responsible fiscal management and compliance with the framework for fiscal responsibility set out in the Public Management and Finance Act. However, as important as fiscal responsibility is, it's not the only reason we're here. Beyond dollars and cents lies the heartbeats and souls relying on us, their government, to craft and put in place policies and programs that will ensure future prosperity and national well-being. Looking forward, there is no accident that broad outcome 3 in the SBS is future-proof to increase resiliency. The key aim of resiliency is to provide for the future, to ensure that there's enough of any resource that our children, grandchildren, and future generations can enjoy, and preferably even have greater levels of health, safety, happiness, and success than we have benefited from. As a parent, I know most of you are parents. Our dearest wish is to see our children live in a state of well-being throughout their lives. As leaders, this hope, this goal, this dearly held responsibility of ensuring the future well-being of our people must be enshrined in all that we do. And so while we are proud of what we have achieved so far, it is my role as the leader of the country to ensure that optimism and pride is something every Caymanian has the opportunity to feel in all aspects of their lives now and for the future. We have achieved a lot together over the past few years, and I want us to continue to move forward together in creating the best possible future for these islands and our people. Yes, times are changing. We are operating in what is described as a VUCA world, as VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. We know that we have many challenges facing us. The climate and nature emergencies pose real and present threats to all of us here, including commercial threats such as the escalating costs of property insurance, which I mentioned earlier. In many cases, we are already living what we believe would be our tomorrows today. The world is changing with advances in automation and artificial intelligence as well. We have never been more connected to each other, but we've also never been more connected to the ripple effects of the geopolitical environment and the planetary environment. To future-proof our society is to anticipate risks, to assess opportunities, and take steps to ensure the health and prosperity of the Cayman Islands in all areas. So we believe this is a core responsibility of any government, to not only address the needs of those today, but to utilize the best available research, data, and decision-making to prepare to meet the needs of those that will arise in the future. There's also a human element to the concept of future-proofing, which involves preparing, equipping, and empowering the Caymanian people to thrive through strengthened, improved, and transformed education, health, employment, sports, youth, culture, and nutrition programs. Being ready for the future includes focusing on sustainable development, which is a priority of this administration, along with better physical infrastructure, such as data cables, and enhanced mobility, including improved road networks, effective public transportation, and walkable communities. It also requires educated minds, healthy bodies, skilled workers, and a strong sense of national identity, including the belief in our own capability and readiness. As the Cayman Islands' economy continues to grow, and the world faces transformational shifts in supply chains, technological breakthroughs, and disruption to established markets, we must consider the impacts, the potential impacts these will have on our future, and recognize the need to embrace new opportunities. Future-proofing requires that we acknowledge our vulnerability as a small island, an import-dependent island as well, to external shocks, such as natural disasters, supply chain shortages, global conflicts, and health or economic crises. The Cayman Islands we want. That is something to think about and focus on. We must build on the positive advancements that we have made. But we must also give our citizens the chance to develop a collective vision of the future they want to create. We must take steps to improve the data we collect and use to understand the whole picture of the issues for Caymanians. But we must also realize the importance of people's own personal stories. They represent data with soul. And so I want my government to be the one who gives the citizens of the Cayman Islands the chance to tell us what they want to see in the Cayman Islands of tomorrow. Tell us what their hopes and dreams are for themselves and their children, so both in the short term and the long term. We need to hear from individuals and communities across our three islands, understand their fears and concerns, not simply at a constituency level, but nationally as well. When we put all of that data together, as a government, we have to be willing to use all of the levers available to ensure their futures are made up of their dreams and not their nightmares. I want us to go beyond short-term politics and become part of a small but growing number of visionary nations who are actually planning for their country's future rather than leaving it to chance. That is why I want to facilitate a national dialogue with our people, not led by the government, not led by me, not led by other ministers, but supported by the government, facilitated by the government, so that it gives an opportunity for all to create a collective long-term vision as a first step. This vision needs to consider the drivers of change and will develop the work we have started with the strategic policy statement to refocus the efforts of the government and our work with partners on delivering strong, long-term positive outcomes. I hope that this will be the beginning of a new kind of contract with citizens and stakeholders, because it will require all of us, through our collective actions, to deliver a hopeful future. I want all of you to be a part of this, part of creating a proud, an optimistic, an excellent Cayman. I should say maintaining that, because we have a lot of that now, don't we? So in a proliferation of uncertainty, there are leaps of creativity, and we want to harness the creativity of citizens, businesses, NGOs, and our younger generations to both set and deliver a shared vision for the future. You see, when I come into rooms like this, I look around, and I'm reminded what a small community we are. How everyone knows everyone, mostly, but we all have someone else in common. Which is why it's important for us not to be divided, but for us to be united. We must be united around the purpose of building a stronger economy, but also building a happier, healthier, and more fulfilled society where people can live their best lives. There's a saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. I'm sure you all would join with me in wanting this country to go far. I want this country to be a leader globally in focusing on the well-being of both current and future generations. And I want all of us in this room to have a legacy and to be people that our grandchildren will be proud of. So we will continue to support the business community and create an atmosphere where businesses can thrive, and we will seek the balance with the need to build a society where people are able to thrive and the natural environment is healthy and able to support our people now and in the future. Together, working hand in hand, business and government can protect and grow our economy and make sure all of our Caymanians can benefit. I invite all of you to continue on this journey with us. Thank you very much.